You think you opened this video by chance, that it was the algorithm, boredom, perhaps a distracted click in the middle of the night. Carl Jung would say something more uncomfortable. Nothing that enters your consciousness is casual. What you call coincidence is, almost always, your own unconscious screaming loud enough to finally be heard. And it doesn't scream for nothing. It screams because something inside you is ready to die, and something new needs to be born in its place. Most people go through life believing they choose what they see, what they read, what they listen to. But Jung observed something darker. You do not choose what appears, you merely confirm what was already ripe within you. This video did not find you by merit. It found you because something inside you no longer fits in the old mold. You may not yet know the name of what you are feeling, but you feel it. You feel a strange tiredness, a restlessness that sleep does not cure, a sensation of being in a place that no longer belongs to you. And it is exactly this discomfort that opened the door. It is not the video that is special. It is your internal state that became specific enough to recognize this content as resonance. Those who are comfortable in their own lies do not reach this point. Those who can still sleep peacefully atop their own masks do not stop at this thumbnail. You stopped because there is already a crack, and cracks, according to Jung, are the only way for light to enter a psyche that has spent years shielded. What you are about to understand is not a philosophical theory. It is a clinical diagnosis. You are not lost, you are in process. And process for Jung is the most painful and most necessary beginning of awakening. From this moment on, ignorance ceases to be an option. Because once consciousness opens its eyes, closing them again no longer brings the same sleep. You may even try to return to your automatic routine, but something now will be watching you from within. And this observer, once activated, does not shut off. There is a silent law that operates beneath everything that happens to you, and most people will die without ever having perceived it. Jung did not call it exactly the law of resonance, but he described the same mechanism in an even crueler way. What is inside determines what comes from outside. It is not what you want, it is not what you ask for, it is not what you pray for. It is what you are, in frequency, in unconscious vibration, in real psychic state, in that hidden place of your psyche where no superficial therapy can reach. You say you want peace, but you vibrate in panic. You say you want love, but you operate in the fear of abandonment. You say you want abundance, but you maintain a secret identity of one who is undeserving. And the universe does not respond to your request. It responds to your level. That is why people change cities, jobs, partners, appearances, and continue attracting the same pain in different clothes. Because the character changed, but the actor did not. The scene changed, but the internal screenwriter remained the same. It is not that the world is unfair to you. It is that the world is exact. It delivers to you with surgical precision that which matches your predominant vibration, not your thoughts of the weak, your base frequency, the frequency you sustain when no one is looking, the frequency that escapes in your internal monologues, in your automatic reactions, in your recurring dreams. It is this frequency that the cosmos reads. It is this frequency that decides who enters and who leaves your life. You feel you deserve more, but you behave like someone who expects less. You speak about freedom, but you sustain invisible psychological agreements that bind you. And this contradiction is not hypocrisy, it is an ego protection system. The ego prefers known pain to the unknown, even if the unknown is better. It prefers familiar imprisonment to uncertain freedom. And as long as you do not see this, you will continue attracting the same archetype of person, the same type of obstacle, the same emotional structure dressed in different names, decade after decade, hoping that this time it will work. It doesn't. It never does, because the external result is merely the report card of your internal state. Changing frequency is not about repeating a mantra. It is not about forcing positive thinking over an open wound. It is about descending with courage to the exact place where your identity was mistakenly constructed and rebuilding it. It is about looking at the character you became to survive childhood and asking without anesthesia, does this character still serve me, or have I become a hostage to it? That is exactly why I prepared the Código do Despertar for you, because reading about resonance does not change yours. Understanding Jung intellectually does not individualize you. What changes the frequency is daily practice, conscious micro-action, recording that which your unconscious usually hides from you. The Código do Despertar is a 60-day map built upon the depth psychology of Carl Jung. Each day, a lesson aimed directly at your body, a key, a surgical question, a declaration that recalibrates your identity, and a micro-action that forces reality to move. It is not reading. It is internal work that reorganizes in 2 months what you would try to resolve alone your entire life without success. The link is pinned in the first comment of this video. If something inside you just recognized the call, leave a comment with the word "Começo." Not for me, for you. To register in the external world that something within has changed. And here is the part that hurts. The reality that is hurting you is yours, not in a moral sense, in a structural sense. Everything that appears from the outside is an exact response to what exists within. Jung used to say that what is not brought to consciousness appears in destiny as external fate. In other words, what you refuse to see internally, the universe stages for you on the street, at work, in relationships, in the bathroom mirror at 3 in the morning. The person who betrays you is playing the part of the you that betrayed yourself first, when you abandoned what you knew to be true. The boss who undervalues you is acting out the role of the internal critic you built in childhood and never fired. The scarcity that haunts you is a faithful reenactment of the psychological lack no one helped you name. It is not a punishment, it is a mirror. And the mirror is not to blame for what it reflects. It only shows, with brutal honesty, what is planted inside you. Most people spend their lives trying to change the mirror. They change relationships, change cities, change jobs, change their discourse. But the reflected image does not change because the reflected object remains the same. And that is why so many people wake up at 40, at 50, at 60, and realize they have spent decades rewriting the same chapter with different characters. They didn't age, they repeated. And repetition for Jung is not life. It is inertia. It is not the world that is cruel. It is your psyche that is insistent. It will offer you the same lesson in increasingly painful packages until you stop demanding that the world change and start doing the real work. Looking inward, not as a romantic exercise, as surgery, as a confrontation. That which you buried to be loved, your swallowed anger, your hidden ambition, your ignored boundaries, did not die. Buried things do not die. They leak out as resentment, as illness, as a compulsive attraction to people who will repeat with you the trauma that no one has finished digesting yet. And here lies the point where most people retreat. Because it is comfortable to blame, it is comfortable to point fingers. It is unbearable to recognize that what hurts you most out there is, in truth, a loving and relentless warning from your own unconscious. But it is only in this recognition that something begins to move. When you stop asking the mirror to change and start reorganizing yourself in front of it, the image inevitably transforms. Not by magic, by coherence. And it is precisely at this point that the Código do Despertar comes in as an instrument. 60 days of guided internal confrontation using Jung's psychology as a scalpel. It is not motivational, it is clinical. If you have felt just now that you are tired of changing mirrors without changing the reflected image, the link is in the first pinned comment. Do not procrastinate. Whoever puts off their awakening puts off their own life. From the moment you start looking with attention, certain details stop seeming like coincidence. The same numbers appear with strange frequency. A word you heard in the morning reappears in a conversation at night. A person you hadn't thought of in years appears 3 times in 1 week. A book falls open to exactly the page you needed to read. A song starts playing the moment you were just thinking of it. Jung gave this a name, synchronicity. The meaningful connection between events that have no apparent causal relationship, but have a precise symbolic one. Synchronicity is not magic, it is language. It is how the unconscious, which does not speak Portuguese, communicates with your conscious mind. It uses images, repetitions, apparently casual encounters. It pulls your attention to details that the rational brain would discard. And it is not the universe sending a message, it is your own deep psyche, which knows much more than your rational mind, pointing out to you, with archetypal patience, the path back to integrity. Most people call this delirium because they were educated to trust only what they can measure. But Jung observed, in decades of clinical practice, that patients in a moment of internal transformation went, without exception, through dense periods of synchronicities. As if, upon drawing closer to themselves, the entire external environment began to collaborate. Not because the environment had changed, because perception had become fine-tuned, because the filter had fallen, because what had always been there could finally be seen. And that is exactly what is happening to you. It is not madness, it is not projection, it is not luck. It is the inevitable side effect of someone who has started to awaken. The right people begin to appear. The wrong ones start to drift away without a fight. Certain books fall into your hands. Unexpected conversations bring exact answers. You are being led, and the only thing you need to do is stop trying to understand with your head and start feeling with the totality of your body. Relationships, challenges, people who entered and left your life, all are part of a larger script, of which your conscious self was never the author. Each figure that appeared brought within themselves a piece of you that needed to be recovered. Each loss was a necessary farewell to an identity that no longer fit. Each blockage was a protection against a path that was not yours. And when you see this, you stop calling life unfair. You start calling it pedagogical. It is not punishment. It is a curriculum, an untransferable curriculum, written by a part of you that knows exactly what you need to become whole. There is a sentence that comes out of your mouth or your mind every day, and that is literally constructing your future reality. You just don't notice because it is so familiar that it seems neutral. I always mess this up. I am anxious. I don't have luck with money. I can't get organized. That's how it is with me. These sentences do not describe you. They mold you. They are decrees. And the unconscious, which does not distinguish irony from serious affirmation, registers each one of them as an execution order. It does not filter, it fulfills. Jung understood, even before neuroscience confirmed it, that the language you use about yourself is not an account of what you are. It is a mold of what you are becoming. Each word repeated with emotion fixes the image in the unconscious, and the unconscious later enacts this image in the external world. That is why people who say things go wrong for me keep having things go wrong, not because the world conspires against them, because they themselves vibrate like someone who, they wait for the error, they act as if they foresee the error, and they attract with mathematical fidelity exactly the foreseen error. It is not bad luck. It is an unconscious loyalty to one's own prophecy. Change does not begin with action. It begins with the word, not the pretty phrases you stick on the fridge. It begins with the automatic sentences you whisper to yourself when no one is looking. It is there, in that invisible monologue, that your identity is being built or destroyed second by second. You do not need lying positive affirmations. You need brutal honesty about the type of discourse you maintain about yourself when you thought no one was listening. And here comes the hard point. Complaining is comfortable. Complaining is a sophisticated way of keeping the old identity alive, with social license for self-sabotage. Each complaint is a declaration. This is me. This continues to be me. Do not expect me to change. The complainer is not asking for a solution. They are asking for permission to remain. And the universe gently grants it. It grants it until you get tired of asking. Changing your internal language is not faking optimism. It is consciously choosing which identities you still feed with words and which you decide, today, to stop sustaining. It is stopping saying, "Eu sou ansioso," and starting to say, "Eu observo ansiedade me atravessar," but it does not define me. It is stopping saying, "Comigo dá errado," and starting to say, "Estou aprendendo a operar uma nova versão de mim." A small grammatical difference, a whole universe of psychic consequence. And that is why the Código do Despertar is not theory. It is practice. 60 days in which you receive daily a declaration that reformulates your identity, a question that exposes the unconscious, and a micro-action that forces reality to reorganize itself around the new version of yourself. You read, you execute, You record it in the program's internal journal, and you observe, in real time, the frequency changing. It is not a promise, it is a method. And the method has existed for decades within the work of Jung. It just had never been translated, until now, into a daily practice format. The link is in the first pinned comment. If you close this video without clicking, the problem is not mine, it is yours. Because the awakening opens a door once. After that, it charges a high price to open it again. Decide with the adult part of yourself, not with the part that procrastinates. Most people believe that changing one's life is a slow, gradual, linear process, that you need years to reorganize, decades to reinvent yourself, a lifetime to become who you were supposed to be. Jung observed the opposite. He observed patients who, after months of deep immersion, took leaps that he himself could not explain through the traditional psychological models of the time. From one day to the next, they left behind 30-year patterns. They left relationships they had sustained for decades. They reorganized their entire profession. They became people no one around them recognized. It was not magic. It was a change of internal state so radical that the old timeline could no longer sustain this new version. It is what some people today call a quantum leap, the point at which your identity rises so much in so little time that external reality must, out of energetic coherence, reconfigure itself to accommodate who you have become. The world has not changed. You have changed. And the world, always faithful to your internal state, has merely updated the script to match. It does not happen through effort. It happens through surrender. When you stop trying to fix the old and simply decide to embody the new, without asking for permission, without waiting for proof, without guaranteeing a result, when you sustain the new frequency, even when the old world still tries to pull you back, and the old world always tries, people will disappear, others will attack, things will crumble. It is not betrayal, it is cleansing. It is exactly the symptom that the timeline is being rewritten beneath your feet. And what falls is only what did not belong to the new version of you. You do not need more time, you need more courage to sustain the new identity for the 60 days in which the old system will still scream for your return. After that, the new frequency sets in, and what comes is unrecognizable, not to others, to yourself. You will look back and not understand how you could live at such a low cadence, sustaining such a small image, attracting all those things that now seem impossible to imagine as part of your history. Now you know. And knowing is the point of no return. You can close this video, go back to your routine, repeat the same phrases, sustain the same masks, and pretend for another year that your time has not yet come. Or you can accept that this meeting was no accident, that something within you recognized every word spoken here, and that the next step is, literally, one click away in the first pinned comment. The illusion of coincidence is over. The illusion of later is too. Choose.